In the wide open plains of Saskatchewan, a bulky pheasant puts on a very interesting display. The greater sage grouse male is equipped with some unique tools to let the ladies know he's got the gains on the plains. The dance party is on at the House of Grouse, and as you might expect, it involves strange sounds and undulations. It may make him more visible to predators, but it's worth it to be able to sow those wild oats here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. And a very special thank you to our patrons, to Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, Richard Kaspar, Lottie, and Aubrey. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about the Charlie Chaplin of chickens, but more on that later.
That is a tasty way of looking at it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hungry.
We are talking about the greater sage grouse. Why
Grouse.
does Charlie Chaplin... What does that have to do with food?
No, chicken has to do with food.
Yeah, I guess. I called it a Charlie Chaplin of chickens because it looks kind of like a chicken, but it's in black and white.
Ah, I see. I thought it was because it was a performer.
True. That works too.
And also doesn't speak. The greater sage grouse is also known as a sage hen. But we're going to call it here Poppin' Robin. Kenny G, because it plays the sax. And the game with game.
Nice.
Bibby thought of a song. She was just feeding the baby. And I told her, because I always tell her about what animal we're covering, and she helps me with the nicknames. And so she's just feeding. She just thought of a song for it to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They are dashing and dancing and prancing for vixens, praying that Cupid will give them their fixins. But do you recall the strangest feature of all? That's all she got, because she was done feeding. But
what's the strangest feature?
We're about to find out. It's the major fact. Let's taxonomize it first.
Oh, you want to hear the taxonomy? Well, it's in the kingdom you know, love, and are in the kingdom Animalia. Mm-hmm. It's in the phylum Chordata. It's in the class Aves. We're talking birds. It's in the order Galliformes. We're talking chickens. Well, fowl. Ground fowl. Ground feeding birds like turks. Turkeys like we just ate.
The Amazon mechanical turkey.
The family is Phasianidae, which is pheasants and partridges, which are in pear trees and jungle fowl. Mm-hmm. Chickens and old world quail and peafowl.
Exclusively in pear trees.
Where we had, speaking of peafowl, where we had Thanksgiving, one of Johanna's cousin's houses, down in Miami, which there's a tree in their yard where at night there are like a dozen peacocks in it. Huh. And I took a picture when we were out in the backyard. There were just like 6 on the roof just hanging out. These huge birds.
They're loud too.
They can be, yeah.
Wow. They have the peacock tree.
Yeah.
Of the neighborhood.
I think that my neighborhood must be lousy with them.
I remember seeing a lot of peacocks down at in the Everglades, like Everglades Holiday Park and National Park, just They're just roaming around.
Yeah. They're in the genus Centrocerus. Cercus? Cercis? Centrocercus?
Yeah.
And the species is Europhasinus. Phasianus?
Centrocircus Europhazianus.
Europhazianus.
Yeah. Well, we would sit here and figure out what those two words mean if it weren't for the fact that we are talking about a bird, and those ornithologists are on their venery game, because it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups, the part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of group of this animal, or what is the term of venery, or what is the collective noun? 2 weeks in a row where I get to do critter groups. Can't believe that's the streak. But we are talking about grouses. Grice? Grousin?
I think it's grouses, but grice is fun.
Yeah. It sounds tasty too. Chicken and grice.
Yeah. Chicken fried grice.
Chicken fried grice. So yeah, if you saw a group of grouses, what would you call it? Would you call it A, an altar of grouses, B, a bevy of grouses, C, a culture of grouses, or D, a dither of grouses?
Give me A and B again.
Altar and bevy. Altar, bevy, culture, dither. A, B, C, D.
A culture of grouses, final answer.
That is incorrect. The answer is bevy. It's a bevy of grouses.
Ornithologists strike again. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, it's really easy to stump you on that one.
It's like a parliament. It's like murder of crows. Like, I mean, at least murder makes a little sense because they're carrion birds, but that's it.
Yeah, it's definitely harder to stump you on the nitty-gritty nomenclature, because you can use language skills and logic to at least narrow it down.
I also do not believe that ornithologists are coming up with this stuff. I think it's just people on Reddit.
Well, the ornithologists have to call the groups of them something.
A group, a flock.
No, flocks
What do you
fly.
mean? We don't need.
These are
a
ground
herd
fowl.
They're flocking this way. Those were ground dinosaurs that were in a flock.
I forgot what the names of those dinosaurs were, but
Gallimimus.
Gallimimus.
There's another thing that's made up. Dinosaurs.
All right, so for you out there in podcasting,
would you like to know what it looks like?
Two things that's made up: Middle Earth and dinosaurs.
Terms of venery and dinosaurs, yeah. Middle Earth is real. It is the history of England. Let's talk about what it looks like.
The word for China in Chinese means middle land. So there you go. There's Middle Earth.
There you go. The greater sage grouse is a ground fowl, and it looks chicken shaped. They have not chicken nugget, but like full actual yard chicken. They have a black, brown, and white coloration in their feathers. Male sage grouses have fancy white feather scarves. They also have yellow sacks. It was described as yellow, but it's more like the greenish yellow of a hard-boiled egg that you color, and the color seeps in there. You know, like that gray looks like the underside of an old school mouse.
Yeah, it looks like old rubber, like rubber from the 90s. Like
yeah.
if you had some like toy or something that is made of rubber, but you just pulled it down from the attic after 30 something years.
Yeah. They also have yellow-green patches above their eyes, which were just called yellow, but they look more like green to me. But I'll settle on a yellow-green. Males have tail feathers that stick up like a peacock and look pointed. Look like a fancy hat. But how big is it? Welcome to the Beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering, squawking the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have a new measure up intro this week, which means we're going to hear from
A peacock?
a grouse. We're going to hear from a grouse, and Carlos can try to guess who it is.
Oscar the Grouse?
No, not again. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
You've lived next door to us like forever.
Well, that's the blasted point. I've put up with all your noise and nonsense for too dang long. I can't take one more second of it.
Do you know who that is?
Like a tamer Bullwinkle?
The character's name is Mr. Grouse, and he lives next door to the Loud family on the Loud House, which was a Nickelodeon show. But do you know who the voice actor is?
No.
John DiMaggio.
That was John DiMaggio that I just heard?
Yeah.
That man's more talented, even more talented than I thought, and I already thought he was very talented.
He plays
That
two
didn't sound
voices
anything
on this.
like him.
That's why I'm renting a place till my house sells. I need some peace and quiet, and I need it now.
All right, I kind of hear it now.
Yeah, you can kind of hear it. It's there.
Yeah.
But somebody has to tell you that it's there. It's
Right. Once it's there, I can see it's the Bader Meinhof effect.
Yeah. Butter my what?
Butter the chicken and the chicken and Grice. Buttered Grice.
Let's talk length. Males are larger at 26 to 30 inches, which is 76.2 in British. 76.2 centimeters. How many grouses go into the height of the world's largest thermometer? Here's a hint. The giant thermometer is one of those things that's not really one of those things. It's in Baker, California. In reality, it's a steel sign with a digital with digital numbers that was built to commemorate the heat record of 134 degrees in Death Valley in 1913. One of those things on the roadside that's not really one of those things. It's just a big statue of one of those things.
They didn't just get gallons and gallons of mercury.
Yeah.
All right. I'll say 50 feet. How many inches? 30 inches for the grouse?
Yep.
Oh, this is going to go nice. 20. That is a nice, clean bunch of numbers I just put into a calculator.
Final answer?
Yes. 20.
The correct answer is 53.6.
Oh, it is a...
The sign is the exact number of feet as the number of degrees it was in Death Valley in 1913. 134 feet tall.
It has never gotten hotter than that? I thought the world was heating up. They told me
Not
the
in
world
Death
was
Valley,
heating
it's
up.
regular. I feel like in the 1910 times, all the records were set set. The worst hurricanes, the worst heat rate waves. The 1910 times the world was crazy.
Everything's fine now, though.
Yeah. The weight. Let's talk about that. They're between 4 and 7 pounds. Or 3.1 kilograms if you speak British. How many grouses go into the weight of the king candle?
I'm pretty sure the British are all about pounds.
Yeah, they like pounds as well. The king candle is a big candle in South Deerfield, Massachusetts, in the Yankee Candle Village flagship store. If it was lit, it is theorized that it would burn for 7.5 years.
All right.
He's the villain in a Rankin and Bass holiday special.
Yes.
No, the kings are usually good guys. Like the king
You'd
of
have
the
to be
toys.
the candle miser.
Yeah.
Or the candle warlock.
Or King Candle is a good guy. He sends the heroes on their journey.
Yeah, or he helps them midway through, like King Moonracer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Of kings, I was only thinking of Santa, who's not really a king, and
King
King
Santa.
and King Moonracer. Santa is the king of the North Pole, or is it more of a corporation?
It seems like it's more of a corporation. Or maybe like a cult. Because they like sing to him and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
know. Well, I mean, Willy Wonka is like a corporation, and they sing to him.
No, they sing for him because they're his employees. They sing to the kids.
True.
But like the elves and everything sing to Santa, and then he takes their firstborn for himself. At least of the deer.
It's more like a paternal relationship.
You'd think so, but he's like really rude and mean to everyone who doesn't live up to his expectations. He's really is mean Santa. Skinny Santa is mean Santa. There, I said it.
Yeah, he needs to peck on the jolly.
Okay. This candle. How many years? 7 years?
7.5 years.
Wow, that's a long time. Just light it as a joke. See what happens. All right, I'm gonna say this thing weighs 4 tons.
Can you get arrested for lighting a candle? Like if I went into the Yankee Candle store and lit a candle, would they just like get mad and ask me to leave? Or would they consider it theft?
Or destruction of personal property.
I guess it's sort of akin to like taking a sip from a drink. You have used up some of the product.
Yes.
So maybe you could go to jail. Maybe you could get arrested.
Or you just have to pay for it.
Yeah, probably.
Or
the most
get
logical.
sued. Okay. So I'm going to say this is 8,000 pounds. I'm just picturing like a water tower sized candle here. Like something like the lighthouse, the little lighthouse that's at in Key West. Okay, so just divided by 7. 1,100. That's my answer. 1,100 grouses go into the weight of this King Candle.
The correct answer, final answer?
Yeah.
The correct answer is 196.7.
What a tiny,
Unlike
weak candle.
Unlike the thermometer, this is one of those things that really is one of those things. It's a real candle. The King Candle is 1,300 pounds, 1,377.
Yeah, I was picturing like Something that was in the neighborhood of 30 feet tall.
It looks higher
And this
than average head
big-
height, but I think it's on a pedestal, so I think it's like 5 feet tall. But it's thick.
That's weak. Give me some time. I'll make a 30-foot candle that'll blow that out of the water.
You want a lighthouse-sized candle that's going to burn for 25 years.
But oh no, I mean, goodness, how if that little pathetic thing will burn for 7 years, the one I'm going to make is going to burn for a century.
I want to know, does the king candle have a thick wick or many regular-sized wicks?
Or just one long regular-sized wick.
If it's one long regular-sized wick, it's just going to burn a hole through the middle. It might
that's
lose
true.
Structural integrity once the heat gets trapped.
Well, the wax will fill it up where the wick is, and then you just never be able to light it again. And eventually the wax would harden, and you lose the wick forever.
Yeah. Does it smell anything like anything? I want to know more about King Candle. Let's go to South Deerfield, Massachusetts. But that's all I got for that. Would you like to hear some fast facts before we get into the major fact?
I sure would.
The greater sage grouse lives in North America from the western U.S. to Alberta and Saskatchewan, Canadas.
All the Canadas, both
I like
the Alberta Canada and the Saskatchewan Canada.
I like the idea that the name of the province or whatever territory is an adjective that modifies the noun, which is Canada.
Or it's a Canadian schism where they both think that they're Canada and they both have a prime minister.
A pope,
But-
yeah.
Yeah.
The
They're too-
Canadian pope.
They're too mild-mannered to have a schism like that.
No way, yeah. They didn't have like a big trucker thing and several other things in recent years at all. They don't migrate very far during the winter, but they will move to
Canadians?
lower elevations with their native range to escape the cold. So they won't go to Mexico, but they'll come down from the mountain. They don't have the passport. The greater grouse is the greatest grouse in North America. It's a big grouse. Sage grouses like sagebrush. Who knew? They enjoy nesting in sagebrush with a canopy overhead. And the canopy is usually a tree, not like a gazebo or something like that. Chicks are able to fly after only 2 weeks, but they only become adept flyers around 6 weeks. Sagebrush isn't only their home; it's also their food. 62% of their diet is made of sagebrush, which is supplemented by other grasses, legumes, lettuce, and herbs. Unlike your backyard chickens, they don't have muscular gizzards, so they can't eat seeds. Toss some seeds to a grouse, and they will turn their beaks up at you and fluff their fancy
Feathers?
feathers. I was going to say scarves, but it's 11:30 and I couldn't remember the word for it. They may be eaten by coyotes, bobcats, badgers, and birds of prey. And that's all I've got for that. Is there anything more interesting about this black and white chicken?
There is. So, oh man, I forgot that we named these major facts. I gotta name it. I mean, I've already used Pop and Robin, but that's probably the best one. Kenny playing the sax, sexy sax man. Did you ever watch that video?
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I guess so.
Where like this guy with no shirt goes and plays like Careless Whisper at Target or whatever.
Oh,
He just walks
yes.
into places
I was thinking
and
of a different song, but yes.
with a saxophone and just plays that exact song. or Baker Street, I think. Or was it Baker Street or Careless Whisper? I don't know. It's just big, sultry saxophone. So greater sage grouses, they during mating season will congregate in these mating grounds in these large groups called leks, which is not just grouses. A lot of birds that have large mating get-togethers, it's usually called a lek. This is called lekking, is getting together like this. Males will compete for female attention, so this is basically like a college party or something for them. And like many birds, the males will compete by putting on a display. They are the larger and more ornate of the two sexes, which also makes them bigger targets for predators, but worth it, right? During dawn and dusk, they will fan their tails, puff out their chests, and make this really unique sound, which I'll talk about in a second. Males only patrol a small patch of the lek that's just a few feet wide, but if other males start to get into that small zone, they will violently defend it from other males. It's kind of like laying down like a blanket at Coachella or something like that, and no one else can. That's your zone, So males have a very interesting looking chest, we'll say. Big pecs. They have these two large air sacs that you mentioned in the front of their chest. It can actually inflate quite a bit. They are air sacs, so they're not just there for show. They can hold up to 4 liters of air in total. And so what they'll do is they'll inflate these sacs as much as they can. And then they'll do this kind of like undulating strut forward, like a chicken. A chicken strut, That sounds tasty too. I would definitely order a side of chicken struts.
It's just scaffolding that's holding.
Yeah, it's just they're support beams made out of chicken.
Chicken fingers, yeah.
Chicken fingers are held up by chicken struts. They'll do this strut forward, and that will close and rapidly deflate these air sacs, and it makes this. It's hard to describe this sound. I may have to put a little bit more work on you, Joe, as the editor, but maybe we should put that sound in here.
Let me just look it up.
Or you can just put it in.
What's a grouse sound?
Gary Poppins is his name. We can't talk about chickens and drumsticks. There you go.
Sounds like a bunch of kids playing with overfilled basketballs a little far away.
But it's got this almost electronic sound to it.
Yeah.
It's got a little whistle behind it.
Also, the look of it is quite suggestive.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of motion happening here as its big white feathered scarf envelops the air sacs in order to rapidly deflate them and then releases again. And it can do this several times in a row. So it just becomes this really energetic motion.
It's like a bubbling cauldron sound.
Yeah, if your bubbling cauldron was filled with guinea pigs.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be? Were you a witch to make a brew?
Or if you just live in Peru.
That's the poem as it goes.
If you're a witch to make a brew, or you live in Peru, you're gonna eat guinea pigs. I don't know. So this sound, as light as it might seem over that you just heard, it can actually be heard almost 2 miles away. So I mean, it carries quite a distance. It may help that these leks tend to take place in very large open fields of sagebrush, so there's not a lot of sound dampening. It kind of just carries out. But the point is to put on a nice display for the ladies. And the ladies are very selective. They will choose the males with the best displays, and only the best displays in chest pops. The best pecs. So that means that only a few males in the lek will mate with all of the females. So most of the males will need to reinflate and up their game for next season if they want to have a chance. So it's not like, oh, he's got this is the best, so, you know, Stacy got him. So I'm going to have to go with the second best, and eventually, you know, you go all the way down to the bottom, and the male with the worst one still finds somebody because, you know, they're very not monogamous. So there's just a couple lucky males, and the rest are sometimes one male has been recorded to mate with up to 80% of the females in the lek, and this can be dozens, even as many as a couple hundred grouses. So it gets a little hot and heavy in Saskatchewan. But yeah, this is one of those visual ones. So definitely, when you get the chance, look up the sage grouse making this sound, because it's pretty crazy. Like, the whole bird folds in on itself as it pumps these air sacs on its chest. These air sacs that are the same color as 30-year-old rubber toys, I guess.
And they sort of sound like rubber. Bouncing.
Yeah. It's the game with game. And that's all I got. You got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, that was the greater sage grouse. For you out there in Podcastia, get to lekking. Inflate your chest sacs and get the girl. Get all the girls, like the greater sage grouse here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
That sounded a little creepy.